All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're exploring a really fascinating text, the Codex Esoterica. And get this, it claims to be a map of the very architecture of reality itself. So let's unpack it.
So, right off the bat, the author hits us with this quote, and it really sets the tone. This isn't about me teaching you a bunch of new, complicated facts. The idea here is to help you to remember something fundamental that maybe you've just forgotten. It's more of an awakening than a lesson, you know?
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at this idea of a forgotten blueprint. Then we'll get into the geometry of creation. After that, we'll tackle consciousness as a cosmic broadcast. And we'll wrap it all up with what it means for you, playing the human game.
All right, section 1, a forgotten blueprint. So, the core idea here is that the universe isn't just random chaos. Nope. The Codex says it's built on a universal design, a kind of sacred geometry that we've lost touch with, but that we can totally learn to see again.
And one thing the text is really clear about is that this isn't a case of science versus spirituality. It's actually suggesting they're just two different languages trying to describe the exact same source. So for our purposes today, we're just going to neutrally lay out its framework, which kind of bridges that ancient wisdom with some really modern ideas.
So, if there's a grand design, how's it built, right? Well, that brings us to the geometry of creation. And you might be surprised to hear that, according to this text, the entire universe starts with a few really simple, elegant steps.
The creation story here is told visually, through geometry, and it closely mirrors the story of Genesis. It all begins with step 1, unity, just a single circle representing pure self-awareness. Then comes duality. A second circle overlaps the first, and that almond-shaped space in the middle? That's the Vesica Pisces, the portal of creation. And from there, a third circle gives us trinity, which allows for movement and structure, creating this beautiful pattern called the seed of life.
And if you keep expanding that seed of life pattern, you get this, Metatron's cube. It's incredible. The Codex calls this the master blueprint for literally all shapes in the entire universe. And hidden inside it, you can find the 5 basic building blocks of all physical reality, the Platonic Solids. And this is where it gets really cool. This ancient system organizes everything. I mean, everything. The Codex says everything physical is built from these 5 shapes. The tetrahedron is fire. The cube, that's earth. The octahedron is air. The icosahedron is water, and the dodecahedron, that's linked to ether, or what modern physics might call the zero-point field.
But for any of this structure to even exist, the Codex says that first, unity has to split in 2. That's the principle of duality. And it's not a battle like good versus evil. It's about balance, these complementary forces. You've got masculine energy, which is focused, and feminine energy, which is creative. You have knowing, and you have forgetting. You literally can't have one without the other. Okay, so we've got the blueprint, right? The geometric bones of the universe. But what makes it all come alive? What's the spark? Well, that brings us to our third section, consciousness.
So you have to ask, right? If reality is this giant geometric structure, what's the life force flowing through it? What's the electricity in the circuit? And this is where the Codex really flips the script. It says the key isn't the structure, it's the consciousness that flows through the structure.
And here's the brilliant analogy the text uses to explain this. Think about a television. The show isn't inside the TV set, right? The TV just receives a broadcast signal. Well, the Codex says it's the same with us. Our brain doesn't create consciousness any more than a TV creates a show. Our body is the receiver, and consciousness is the signal being broadcast from a universal mind. To back this up, the text pulls in a famous principle from the Kybalion. The all is mind, the universe is mental. What does that mean? It means that, at its absolute core, reality is a conscious mental creation. It's all happening within one vast universal consciousness. Okay, so this next idea is kind of wild. The text describes the human experience as a cosmic metaverse, like the ultimate virtual reality game. Imagine a tiny piece of that universal consciousness decides to play. It starts as a vibration, builds itself a human avatar, our body, and jumps into the game of life. And the goal? To experience everything, to grow, and to level up, until it can attune back into the God frequency, a state of awareness that contains all knowledge.
Okay, this is all fascinating cosmic stuff, but what's the point? What does any of this, the geometry, the cosmic broadcast, actually mean for you, for me? That's what we're getting into in our final section, playing the human game. So according to this framework, your life isn't just a series of random events. It's a mission. You're basically enrolled in a 3D university. Your whole purpose for being here is to learn lessons, to evolve your awareness, and ultimately, to reunite your individual fragment of consciousness with the universal whole it came from. And get this, the text suggests we have an absolutely incredible, untapped power source to help us on this mission. It does the math. Our bodies have about 50 trillion cells, and each one is like a tiny battery. You add all that up, and you get a theoretical electrical potential of 70 times trillion volts. Just let that sink in. That's a mind-boggling amount of energy we have at our command. And of course, how we use that energy is everything. The Codex presents a model of karma based on that signal analogy. Good actions add harmonic data to your conscious signal, amplifying it and making it clearer. That's ascension. It moves you closer to the universal mind. But bad actions, they create static, interference, and reduce your signal's clarity. That leads to descent, where you might have to relearn some lessons in a lower state of consciousness. But here's the empowering part. You're not stuck. The text outlines a 4-step path to taking control. First, become aware that your life is a result of prior programming. Second, initiate yourself by learning how these universal principles operate. Third, awaken. That's the moment you realize you can actually write the code to your own reality. And finally, you master this by living out your new program every day. And as we wrap up, here's one final piece of wisdom from the source material to help with that process. Recognize what is in your sight. That which is hidden from you will become plain to you. It's a powerful reminder to just focus on the present moment, because that is where the deeper truths are always revealed. So this brings us to our final thought. The Codex Esoterica presents this incredible reality where you are a fragment of a universal mind, playing a game in a geometric universe, with the power to shape your own experience. So the ultimate question it leaves us with is this: if your life is a story you are writing, what happens next?